In game theory, there is a concept called asymmetric payoff. And this makes the dollar a irreplaceable reserve currency. We know in the contemporary world today, if a shipment needs to go from one part of the globe to the other, it takes days and months. And during this period, there is an emergence of transaction that takes place in the shadow banking, which is predominantly euro dollar. Interestingly, if any other currency were to try and replace the euro dollar with its own native currency, then it will lead to destruction of that nation's wealth. Stay tuned.
Have you ever wondered how the US Federal Reserve can just create trillions of dollars during a crisis? Well, if any other country on Earth tried that, their currency would absolutely collapse? It's a puzzle, right? Well, it's a puzzle that really defines the entire modern financial world, and today, we're gonna unpack it.
So let's get right to it. Why is the United States always the world's financial firefighter? I mean, every time there's a global panic, they're the ones stepping in, without even blinking. What's the hidden logic behind this? Why do they always play this role?
Okay, here's the short answer. The whole thing boils down to this single sentence. For the United States, being the world's financial backstop is a massive, massive net positive. The benefits are just way bigger than the costs. But for any other nation, it would be a complete catastrophe. And our mission in this explainer is to figure out why. Why does this incredible asymmetry exist?
All right, so let's start with the US side of the equation. There are really 4 key advantages that give America this unique power. These are the reasons it can, and you'll see, always does, step in when things get hairy.
Now, this first advantage is almost like a financial superpower. When the Fed creates new dollars, somehow it manages to sidestep the inflation trap that would absolutely crush any other country. And the secret? Well, a huge chunk of those new dollars doesn't even stay inside the US. So you might be asking, where exactly do all these dollars go? Well, they flow out into the vast plumbing of the global financial system. They go to Eurodollar banks, they get sent out through foreign exchange swap lines, they grease the wheels of global trade, and they end up in the reserves of foreign central banks. So in effect, the US gets to export its liquidity and its potential inflation to the rest of the world. It calms the global system instead of overheating its own economy. No other country has a safety valve like that, not even close.
Advantage number 2. This is a big one. You might have heard this phrase before, the exorbitant privilege. This really gets to the heart of the incredible deal the US gets in return for providing the world's reserve currency. And trust me, it is massively skewed in America's favor.
I mean, just look at this. This is the exorbitant privilege in action. The US issues financial paper, basically IOUs, like Treasury bonds, and in return, the rest of the world sends America actual, real, tangible stuff. We're talking oil, cars, electronics, you name it. It's a system that quietly helps keep consumer prices lower and props up the American standard of living. It's an incredible trade-off.
Now, the third advantage is, well, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but stick with me. You'd think that a huge global financial panic would weaken the world's dominant power, right? But with the dollar system, the exact opposite happens. Every single crisis actually makes the system stronger and more centered on the US.
So here's how this reinforcing loop works. Every single time, a global panic starts. And what's the first thing every investor on the planet does? They flee to safety. And what is safety? It's buying US dollars and US Treasuries. This creates a massive dollar shortage. And who's there to step in? The Fed, providing the liquidity the world is desperate for. And the result? The entire global system becomes even more dependent on the US dollar than it was before. For the US, you see, not intervening is actually way riskier than intervening.
And finally, the fourth advantage. This one isn't just about the currency itself. It's about the entire infrastructure of global finance. You know, the pipes, the legal framework, the whole operating system. It's all fundamentally American. Think of it like this. The global financial system is basically running on an American operating system. It's priced in dollars, it's governed by US law, and it's all handled by US banks. So when the Fed acts, it isn't bailing out the world out of the kindness of its heart. It's performing routine maintenance on its own global system, a system the rest of the world has, for better or worse, chosen to use. Okay, so we've seen why the US can and does act. Now let's flip the coin. Why doesn't Europe, or China, or Japan step up to the plate? Well, the answer is simple and it's stark. For any of them, it would be a national survival risk. The number one reason, and this is the big one,
is that no other nation can absorb global financial shocks without triggering the complete collapse of its own currency. An attempt to backstop the world would immediately boomerang back and just destroy their own economy from the inside out.
Just imagine for a second if the European Central Bank tried to do what the Fed does. It would kick off this horrible, self-destructive cycle. They'd print a mountain of euros, but where would that money go? It would immediately flee to the safety of the US dollar. The euro would plummet, the cost of imported energy and goods would skyrocket, and the political backlash would be absolutely immense. It's just a guaranteed recipe for disaster.
And this all ties back to a really fundamental problem. There just isn't a deep structural demand for other currencies in the same way there is for the dollar. Global oil isn't priced in euros. Massive international debt contracts aren't written in yen. So trying to flood the world with those currencies during a crisis, it doesn't solve the problem. It just highlights their secondary role in the system.
Even if another nation could somehow solve all those economic puzzles, the political hurdles are just insurmountable. How could a leader in Europe or Japan possibly justify using their central bank to prop up foreign institutions when their own citizens are struggling? It's impossible.
This is exactly what the public would be asking. This is how they would see it. While the US gets to frame its actions as ensuring market stability, everywhere else it would be seen as risking domestic savings to bail out foreigners. Politically, it is a complete non-starter.
And this slide really highlights the structural problem, especially for a potential competitor like the Eurozone. Look at the US system. One treasury, one central bank, one massive unified bond market. The Eurozone? It has one central bank, sure, but it has many different treasuries and a bunch of fragmented bond markets. That structural weakness alone makes it totally unreliable as a global backstop.
So we've seen why the US acts and why others can't. This brings us to the hidden reason, the secret ingredient that ties this all together. It's a concept from game theory that explains the core logic of the entire system.
And that concept is the asymmetric payoff. Now, it sounds a little academic, but the idea is actually super simple. It's just a situation where for doing the exact same thing, one player stands to gain massively while the other player faces catastrophic losses. The risks and rewards are completely, totally lopsided.
And here it is. This is the game theory of global finance in a nutshell. If the US backstops the world, it gains influence, it gains demand for its assets, and it gets lower borrowing costs. It is a clear win. If anyone else tries it, there is currency collapse, they lose all credibility, it is a guaranteed loss. So the rational choice for the US is to always intervene, and the rational choice for everyone else is to always stay on the sidelines.
And that brings us to the system's big, unspoken truth. So the next time you see the US step in during a crisis, remember, this has absolutely nothing to do with generosity. It's not about altruism, it's about something much more fundamental.
And here it is, the fundamental truth of it all. The US doesn't save the world because it's kind. It saves the world because the world runs on its financial books. And letting that system fail, that would be an act of profound self-harm. It simply has no other choice.
So this leaves us with one final, massive, lingering question. The dollar's dominance is built on this incredible asymmetry, a system where the US wins by acting and everyone else loses just by trying. But how long can a global system built on such a fundamental imbalance truly last? Thanks for watching.